Hello, everyone. My name is Kirk Bachman, and welcome back to The Ultimate Dish. Today, we have an extraordinary honor of welcoming a true culinary legend, Chef Jacques Pépin. Born in 1935 in Bourg-en-Bresse, France, near Lyon, Jacques began his culinary journey at age 13 with an apprenticeship at the Grand Hotel de l'Europe. After helping his parents at their restaurant, Le Pavillon, he went on to work in Paris, ultimately serving as personal chef to 3 French heads of state, including Charles de Gaulle. In 1959, Jacques came to America, where his career took remarkable turns. He worked at La Pavillon, a historic French restaurant in New York City, and then made an unexpected move to Howard Johnson's as Director of Research and Development from 1960 to 1970. During that same period of time, he earned his bachelor's and his master's degrees at Columbia University. Jacques is the author of more than 30 cookbooks, including his seminal text, La Technique, and his autobiography, The Apprentice. He's hosted numerous television series, including the beloved Julia and Jacques Cooking at Home with his dear friend Julia Child, which won both an Emmy Award and a James Beard Foundation Award. He's received 16 James Beard Foundation's awards, including the Lifetime Achievement Award in 2005, and was awarded France's highest civilian honor, La Légion d'honneur, in 2004. For the past 30 years, Jacques has taught in the Culinary Arts program at Boston University and served as Dean of Special Programs at the International Culinary Center. In 2016, he co-founded the Jacques Pépin Foundation with his daughter, Claudine, and his son-in-law, Roly Wiesen, to provide culinary training to individuals facing employment barriers. Jacques is also an accomplished artist, showcased in his recent New York Times bestseller, Art of the Chicken. He has called Connecticut home since 1975. So get ready, everyone, for a conversation with a master who has seen it all, done it all, and continues to inspire us all. And there he is. Good morning, Chef.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good.
Introduction. Yeah.
I'm a little tired after that. Did I do okay with the French terminology?
Yeah, that's fine.
Oh my goodness. So I'm beyond excited to chat with you today. Thank you for your time.
You're welcome.
We had your son-in-law, Roly, on the show about a year ago, and he was fabulous. He talked much about the foundation, and he told us a really funny story. I hope you remember it. And it was the story of the first time that he met you, and he came over to the house, and it was Christmas, and he thought it was a good idea to bring apple pie and foie gras terrine to Jacques Pépin's house.
That's a good idea.
And then at some point, you sliced up one of your terrines and one of his, and he thought he did okay. He thought he did okay.
Yeah, yes. I frankly don't really remember exactly, but yes, he's a great guy. Actually, the foundation and all that was created by him and my daughter, not by me. I've been the lucky recipient of many of those things, so I'm a lucky guy.
Yeah. Well, it's good to. He's a wonderful, wonderful person, and we appreciated having him. Chef, I've read, I've done a lot of research, and you've often said, and things that I've read, that you never planned most of what happened in your life. You simply followed the work, and you stayed open to what came next. And as we sit here today at this moment in your life, what feels, maybe there's not one single memory, but what feels like the single most important cooking lesson that has taught you about life?
Oh, cooking, without any question, brings people together. And certainly in our area now of dissension on political problem and so forth. There is no political implication in cooking or racial implication or religious implication or whatever you want. People bring together, and it's a nice way of connecting and being together and learning how to be together. I mean, if I had five Republican and five Democrat coming to my house for dinner, before they start arguing, I would say, we got to finish those 2 bottles of wine first.
Yeah. I totally agree. I totally agree.
Start talking. I mean, usually, the sitting at the table, the sharing of food, wine, I mean, kind of brings people together. And even if there is dissension and disagreement, it's usually more polite and nicer than it would be otherwise,
Oh, that's beautifully said. Beautifully said. Chef, that leads me to my next question or statement. It's perfect segue. Your work over the years has really shaped generations of cooks through technique, myself included.
I don't know. But
And you've always carried this beautiful sense of humility and humanity. And when you think about and my father is 90 years old this year, and he came from Germany, and he's what they call a Meisterbrief there, and he came to America in 1960, and he knows that we're talking today, and he wanted me to ask you, when you were a young boy in France, what mattered most to you, mastering the technique of your mentors, or learning how to be the most generous person you could be in the kitchen?
I don't think I ever thought in those terms, And by the way, if your father is 90, like me, and came here in 1960, I came here in 1959, so a
You
great
beat him.
similarity. Yes, right. Uh, life was totally different. I mean, 80 years ago, during the war, even at the end of the war, I mean, we didn't have, of course, we didn't have a radio at my house. We didn't have the telephone. We didn't have a computer. Of course, we didn't have any of this. And it's quite a different world, So my father was a cabinet maker. My mother was a cook, having a little restaurant. So my choice in life was very easy. I'm a cook or a cabinet maker. So never really thought forward and that much. And when you get into apprenticeship at that age, when I was young, of course, at the beginning, there I did a lot of killing of chicken and killing of rabbit and skinning rabbit and plucking chicken, cleaning the floor, and especially keeping the stove working with wood and all that, which is a whole technique, that you have to do so that the stove is exactly really hot at the moment where you need it when the people sit down at the table. If you screw up there, that screw up the whole dining room. So, those things don't exist anymore, but those were very important. And never really thought forward, just absorbed what was coming in, at the time. And everything was kind of new for me at my age,
Thank you for that. Thank you for that, Chef. I have to mention, I'm going to mention your 50th anniversary edition of Complete Techniques, but I have to say that this is my favorite book. Can you see that? It's, what I love about this book? One, on page 23, you are there with your apron and a bottle of wine.
Oh.
But every chapter, and we'll talk about this more, every chapter features one of your paintings.
Oh.
As you enter, just absolutely beautiful. I've had this book so long, the pages are very, very tarnished, but
Okay.
and stained from the kitchen as well. But coming back to the 50th anniversary edition of Jacques Pépin Complete Techniques, I have another one of the. This one came out in 2012. The book is described as being both for the beginner home cook, for example, and professional chefs. And My question, Chef, is what do you hope a young cook just starting out will take away from your words and your recipes in this book?
Well, the beauty of that book, in a sense, it's still current in a way, and it's 50 years. It came out in 76, because whether you cook Italian, Spanish, or French, or American, the way you learn how to peel an asparagus or slice or bone out a chicken is the same, regardless of what you're going to do with it after. So that was the idea. I had a very, very bad car accident in 1974. And at that point, that kind of changed my life too, although I had started writing book and so forth. And I started giving classes a bit all over the country in those small cooking school. There was cookware shop, a lot of lady, mostly lady, opened cookware shop with a little cooking school in the back and so forth. And I started doing a couple of those. And they said, "Oh, can we book you for next year?" I ended up doing like 35 weeks out of the year, going from east to west. So this is there. When I started, I gave class of about 3 hours, pretty long class. And I started, I peel a carrot, and people said, "Wow, that's how you peel a carrot." I said, "Yeah." So I was kind of a branch to me. So I decided there, those basic techniques would be important to put in a book, and it's very visual and so forth. So that's basically how the book came about. And actually, it's interesting because the first edition, we had a big segment in the middle with the finished dishes in color, because the book is in black and white. And it wasn't long after it was edited, they edit again, a second edition, and they removed that. It was too expensive, the center color. But they never removed the reference to it. So, I may bone out a chicken too, and at the end of it, I just have the bone out chicken on the table and the stuff, and I say, see page whatever for the finished dish to do. They never removed that, but there was no more center. So it was kind of weird, but then it went on. It was resold. It was added. I did the second volume, La Méthode. I didn't want to call it La Technique number 2, so we call it La Méthode. We found a synonym, and so forth. So that book is probably, yes, what would remain of me, more because it is still useful today as it was 50 years ago, even though I don't cook. Certainly don't cook the same way that I did 50 years ago. But the way you as I say, you peel an asparagus or doesn't really change, so through those years. So that's why.
No, that's brilliant. That's well said. And I think Auguste Escoffier himself would agree 100%. It starts with foundations, right? It starts with the classical techniques.
Yes, I mean, my life changed, and from being really a professional cook and involved really in the professional world of cooking, I moved to the home cooking world in many ways, and even at the beginning of like 5 years ago, my daughter said, "Well, could you do a little recipe like 3, 4, 5 minutes I want to put it on Facebook too." And we did. I did 400 of those book, which she put a different one every day. I never take care of that. And those were stuff I had left over in the refrigerator or this and that. So this is really for home cook, an idea of. So that was, I moved from one to the other, and certainly the technique is very important. If you're a professional chef, or if you learn to become a professional chef, there is no question that it's 11 o'clock in the morning, and at 12 o'clock you have 80 people sitting down for lunch. Well, you have 3 cases of artichokes to do. You got to do them within 20, 30 minutes. So the speed there, the technique become very important, which is not really the case when you're at home, working in different ways. So.
No, that's so well said. Great advice for both the home cook and the professional. If we could if we could go back a few years when you were born, like we said earlier, near Lyon, and you started your apprenticeship at a very young age. What are some of them? I grew up in my parents' kitchen as well, bakery. I'm curious as to some of your earliest memories of the kitchen at your parents' restaurant and what made you fall in love. I know you had a choice. You were either going to be a cook or a carpenter, but how did you fall in love with cooking in your parents' restaurant?
Well, cooking was exciting. I have to say that Lyon is where I was. I come from Lyon in France. Lyon is pretty well known for the formidable woman of Lyon, woman chef, some 3-star at the Michelin and so forth. And in my family, I can count 12 restaurants in Lyon and the area around Lyon and so forth. 12 restaurants owned and operated by women. I was the first male to go into that business, frankly. So my aunt, my cousin, sister-in-law, mother, of course, they all were a cook. And at some point between 56, 58, as you mentioned, I was the chef to the president in France. And I remember at that time going back to Lyon for a few days in vacation and going to my aunt in Nantua, where the restaurant, get into the kitchen. She threw me out of the kitchen. She said, "You used to be out of the." So, I was the chef of the president. They were not very impressed. So those moments were pretty terrific cook. And still, in Lyon is known for the woman cooking very often. Yeah.
Yeah, certainly. So in 1959, you came to America, like you said, and I've read a quote from you. I never planned to stay in America. Neither did my father. I never planned to go to Columbia. I never planned to parent or to do that many cookbooks or to do any of the things I've done. But things happen and you go with it.
Yes.
I'd love to hear a little bit more of your elaboration on that comment. And what brought you to America in the first place?
Well, I wasn't married. I was working in Paris in good job, but I love America. I love jazz. I love all of this. I said it'd be great to learn the language and spend a year there or so. And I didn't really have anything planned, so I came on a student boat for, like I said, I'll stay a year and a half, 2 years. And this is 60 years later or more, and I'm still here. So life was different there. It was another world that I discovered. To start with, even working at the Pavillon, we work with one shift. In France at that time, in Paris, we still work 2 shifts. So starting at 9 o'clock in the morning, finishing at 2, starting back at 5:30 until 10 at night. So, it was a different world that here I started in the morning and at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, finish at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So I thought, I came on a student boat, as I said, and there was a professor there who spoke French, and I say, I'm going to be in New York. I learned I need to improve my English. He said, well, you're in New York, so you go to Columbia University, the best school, which of course I'd never heard of. The week after I was here, I took the subway up, went to Columbia, find somehow someone who spoke French enough to direct me, and enrolled eventually in English for foreign students. That was 1959. And in 1972, I proposed a doctoral dissertation on the history of food. So I stayed at Columbia, 15 years, 16 years. I was working in New York. I had time, and I was probably 2 or 3 years English for foreign students. And then I had to go into some type of validation program because, of course, I never went to high school. So I had to go to 2, 3 years on the validation program. Then I was accepted in the regular program and did a BA and a master in literature. Eventually my doctoral dissertation was an history of food, but in the context civilization literature, going back to the Greek. And at that time they look at me, they say, food, you cannot write a doctoral dissertation on food. That's too trivial. It's not important enough. So my doctoral dissertation was refused there. So I quit at that point. And eventually we opened, with Julia, I work with Julia a lot. We set up a program at Boston University. We're doing a Master of Liberal Art with a concentration in gastronomy that is still going on. So things have changed, since that time a great deal. There has been many books and many dissertations about food, but not at that time.
Just fabulous stories. What can you tell us a little bit about the opportunity that presented itself to serve as a chef at the White House, but ultimately you decided to go to work for Howard Johnson's, which was an up and coming, very, very large organization, right? What led you to make that decision?
Well, it's not as noble as you may think it is, because at that time the world was quite different. the cook was really at the bottom of the social scale, and for me, I worked with three presidents in France for 2 years between 56, 58. And I served Eisenhower, Nehru, Macmillan, Tito, and head of state. I never had a time when people would welcome me to the dining room for kudo. Are you kidding? That did not exist. I never had an interview with a magazine, newspaper, too. That didn't exist. So the cook was really low on the social scale. So when I was in New York, I worked at the Pavillon, which was considered maybe the best French restaurant at the time, and it was.
Sure. Yeah.
I was offered the job for Kennedy at the White House, but again, in a sense, I didn't realize, because as I said, the cook was in a different position than now, and I had done that, and it was okay, but I was going to Colombia at the time. I was doing all kind of other things, so I didn't want to quit that. So Howard D. Johnson was one of the regular clients of the Pavillon, and he hired Pierre Freinet, who was the executive chef, to work for Howard Johnson, and Pierre absolutely wanted me to go with him. So I did in the commissary in Queen Village, and I stayed there for 10 years. And 10 years later, I left in 1970. I opened a restaurant on Fifth Avenue in New York called La Potagerie, where I did things in production, soup, a dinner for $375, all included a soup, a dessert, and so forth. And I was a consultant at the Russian Tea Room. Then I opened the World Trade Center with Joe Baum. We serve 40,000 people a day from the commissary that I set up. I'm saying all of that to say I would never have been able, as a French chef, to do that without the training of Howard Johnson. It was another world altogether for me. So I did learn a great deal. I'd never done a recipe before written down. So, yes. So Howard Johnson was great, and Mr. Johnson came to my wedding. He came to the christening of my daughter. So he was a great guy. Yeah.
Wow, what a wonderful story. Wonderful. Coming to your daughter, beautiful segue to the cookbooks. So many cookbooks, over 30, starting with the other half of the egg, 1967, the same year that Claudine was born.
Right.
What inspired you, specifically what inspired you to write that book, and how do books allow you to find mediums that other canvases don't?
Well, that book was actually the idea, the one of Helen McCulley, was the food editor of McCall, House Beautiful. And I met Craig Claiborne first, because at the Pavillon, he reviewed the Pavillon, came to interview me and so forth. So I met Craig Claiborne, who just started, at the New York Times, and he introduced me to Helen McCulley, and Helen and I she was already a fairly, older lady at that time. She kind of became my surrogate mother, telling me, don't wear those socks, don't do this, don't do that. And she's the one who pushed me into starting to write. And she spoke with James Beard every day for like an hour. So
Wow.
through her, I met James Beard and a few months later or whatever, she said, "Oh, I have a book here. I want you to look at it." And it was the manuscript of Mastering the Art of French Cooking. It was Julia's book, was sent to her to review. And I looked, I said, that's a pretty good book. She said, well, the woman is coming to New York in a couple of weeks. You want to cook for her? I said, sure. So that's how I met Julia a few months after I was here. In fact, we spoke French. When I met her, she came back from France. Her French was better than my English at the time. So the the world of food was really small. I knew, if you want, the trinity of cooking in America, which was James Beard, Julia Child, and Craig Claiborne, within 6 months or 8 months after I was here. So it was another world altogether than it is now, So that's how I met Julia. So yeah.
Such a beautiful memory. I'm just curious when you started painting and how that has become an expression of your of your passion, just like your cooking is, right? You said earlier that, food brings people together. Do you feel the same way about your painting, about your art?
In a different way, but for me, they complete me in some ways. I mean, it was at Columbia. When I was at Columbia, at some point, I had the choice of taking a few classes here and there. So I took a class in sculpture once and another one in drawing. And that brought me into that world. And I started doing illustration. And, I was married for 55 years, and at the beginning of our marriage, actually, in the many years ago, Gloria said, "Well, people for dinner," she said, "Why don't we write the menu in something?" So she decided we write the menu, and I kind of illustrated here, and we started that. And I have 12 books that thick of 50 years, more than 50 years, 60 years now, of people who came to my house for dinner, from my mother to my two brothers to many, many people who are gone, who are there. So, I mean, my daughter, Claudine, is 58 years old. She came a few months ago and she said, "Do you know what I ate for my 5th birthday?" I said, "Let's look." We find she drew a chicken at that point, did a thing. So, those book of menu are my whole life in a sense. And this is, in a sense, how also I started illustrating them, cooking, and that also was part of my interest in the painting, and it got bigger and bigger. Certainly now, I have maybe more interest in painting than in cooking. So
No, I love that. That's such an amazing story. Speaking of your daughter, in 2016, you founded the Jacques Pépin Foundation with Rolly. And
Yeah.
why was it important, do you believe, to create that foundation? And all these years later, what impact do you see that it's making? I think it's absolutely fabulous.
Well, Rolly, it was Rolly. I mean, and Claudine who started that, and Rolly started compiling stuff that I've done on television. See, I did 13 television series, and each time I had a different book. That's why I have so many different books, because different subject. Like I had a column in the New York Times called "The Purposeful Cook," to cook for a family of 6 for a limited amount of money. So I did a series called Cuisine Économique and so forth, coming from that series. I did 3 series, I think, on fast food my way, showing people what to do with using the supermarket as a prep cook. Because as you know, in a professional kitchen, you have the prep cook come, he bone out the chicken, bone out the fish, slice the shallot, chop the mushroom, wash the spinach. So you come to the stove, someone order a piece of fish, you grab it there, a bit of shallot, to bring it to a boil. You do that in 4 or 5 minutes because you have the prep. So I wanted to show people. So I took package of the supermarket of skinless, boneless breast of chicken, a pre-sliced mushroom, and within 30 minutes, I did 3, 4 dish, showing people, as I say, how to use. So I did all of those series on television with different subject to start with. So that's why I did so many books to a certain extent, and so many. But Your question, I forgot now.
No, 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 we were just talking about how important the foundation was.
Oh yes,
Uh,
so really start bringing all of those things on Instagram and stuff,
yeah,
extrapolating, for example, how to slice a potato and out of one show or whatever. So he extrapolated those things. So at some point, he's a professional chef, real life, and he he had a degree, I think, in journalism. He went to college, but then after that was hired at Johnson and Well and did his master and did a PhD on education. So he's a full professor now.
yeah,
But at at uh, at some point, he said, you've been teaching people all your life doing this. What do you think you would want to teach now? So we talked about it, and I said, people who have been a bit disenfranchised by life, that people who come out of jail, homeless people, former drug addicts. I mean, people like this need help. So we work with community kitchen throughout the country to teach people like that, because I feel that in 6 weeks, I can teach people how to wash salad and peel potato and poach an egg. And in 6 weeks, if people are interested, they stay in that kitchen. 5 years later, maybe that person is the chef now of that little restaurant, and you have redone your life. And we need people like this without any question. So that was the reason that we started doing in that direction.
it's
So
amazing. It's amazing. And I agree 100%. I was going to ask a question coming back to, in the days when you were first starting to be on television, and there weren't that many people on television.
no,
When you watch the countless television shows today,
yeah, it's amazing.
well,
Yeah,
it is amazing, isn't it?
yeah,
Right? It's come so far.
yeah. But I don't, so I don't look at television. Don't even look at my own show, so frankly, so I don't look. But yeah, it's a different world, and PBS. I mean, without any question, PBS, whether it's Lydia Bastianich or Rick Bellis or people like that, or Martin Yan. We kind of try to teach people, and I'm sure that all the shows that I've done, a lot of people will look at my show and say, that guy's very boring. It's always the same, because there is no fight, there is no, and now a great deal of the show are competition and fight and all that, which is maybe fun to look, but really not the way it works in the kitchen or the way you learn how to cook. So, it's a different way. Certainly, PBS was there to teach people how to, and this is what I did for many years, Julia also. So we had a good time doing that, and it's quite different now, I guess.
Was there? I'm glad you brought up teaching. Was teaching something you felt that was your mother a teacher when she taught you how to cook? Is it something that has always been part of you? You always felt like you needed to give back through teaching?
I don't know if we call that teaching, because at the time I don't think I ever wrote a recipe before I came to America. And it was purely a question of looking and duplicating and looking and duplicating, and without much explanation one or the other. It was kind of a natural thing, So, but starting, when I was 6, 7 years old, yes, we came back from school. I would never tell my mother or my father, I'm bored. They would say, you're what? Are you kidding? There was always some potato to peel, or some bottle to put wine in it, or stuff in the restaurant. We tried to hide, my brother and I, rather. Yes.
Well, we're grateful that teaching became such a natural thing for you, because we've learned so much. And I wanted to say, first of all, happy birthday. Congratulations on your recent birthday.
All right.
90 chefs and 90 dinners. How
Right.
how was that experience for you? I followed you on social media.
Yeah, yeah. That was created by Rolly and Claudine, and I did not go to 90 parties, but probably 20, 30. Whether it
Yeah.
was in New York, I went on the West Coast for like 3 weeks in Napa to do a lot of parties. So it was very rewarding in many ways, and doing extraordinary dinner like at the French Laundry. Thomas Keller, I mean, who charged like $5,000 and gave all the money to the foundation.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so people in our world of food are very generous usually. So yes, it's been very rewarding. We had 90 professional chef doing a party, and we had 90 home cook doing a party at home.
No,
Yeah,
just absolutely fabulous. We have to talk about your friendship with Julia Child. I was so fortunate to meet her years and years ago. You were longtime close friends, and your PBS series Julia and Jacques Cooking at Home won both an Emmy Award and James Beard Foundation Award in 2001. I read an article where Julia said she thought the world of you and came across this other story that I just wanted to share today. And I quote, Jacques and Julia were doing a demo at Boston University. They were having a delightful time battling with each other in their wonderfully competitive way. Jacques had seasoned a pot, but Julia didn't think he had used enough salt. They argued about it, and then while his back was turned, she threw in some more salt.
yeah.
What made your partnership and your relationship on television with Julia so magical?
Well, to start with, we were friends, but it's also in that case at BU, she threw stick of butter with me, and I love butter. So I what people don't realize, we did that. Actually, we started doing that for a special for PBS in the summer. In the summer, I did a special doing only technique. I did that before before the computer was there, and you had Amazon and all of those shows that to go to. In the summer, I did a special for PBS, and at some point, at BU they say, "Oh, do you want to do a show with Julia?" And I say, "Yeah, it'd be great." Like in whatever hall we had, like 500 people, and so I told PBS, "Do you want to film that other special?" And we did that for a couple of years. So certainly we kind of decided. Usually, Julia decided what food to bring and so forth. And we didn't really add any recipe, and we start cooking. And that was fun, and that's why we decided to do a series on television after. So, but as I say, I did 13 series of television, and each time we did a series, I had a book I wrote, at least the manuscript of the book, to give to the back kitchen and all that, so that they have an idea. I'm going to do that today. Well, with Julia, we had no recipe and no book. Well, the book was done after, but no recipe. So it was a bit probably difficult for the cameraman too. They didn't know whether right, left. So we brought food and we started cooking without recipe, which for me, as a professional chef, is probably easier and more fun. I throw that bunch of scallion in whatever dish it was because it happened to be on the table. I don't have to look at a recipe. I throw it in. So that's how we cook together. And strangely enough, we get so many letters that she was so much more French than I was, because she always said we started cooking together. Well, yeah, I started in 1949. She came to Paris in 1949. So it was the same style of cooking and all that of the time. She was a bit older. She was 23 years older than me. So it was different. But certainly I remember one time I'm cooking spinach, whatever we do. So I have a skillet. I wash spinach. I took a big handful of spinach, throw it in the skillet to cover it. She said, no, 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 no. I said, well, she said, no, we have to blanch it. Yes. When I worked in Paris at the Plaza Athénée or Fouquet's or at the Meurice, Yes, you had that big cauldron in copper of salted water, and you drop the vegetable in there to blanch them, to drain them out, cool them off, and press them. So you had bowl of pre-cooked spinach or that's in the refrigerator. If someone orders spinach, that's what you took because we were pre-cooked. So it's still. I say, well, but we don't do that anymore. To blanch it in water. I say, we have to do that. No, we don't. So we argue with things like this often, which was really funny because it was all in the old style and so forth. But as I say, we had no recipe, so we did whatever we wanted, and I think people liked it, but it wasn't planned as
And
anything.
that's what made it so incredible, that it was so natural and spontaneous
Oh
and
yeah, it was
unintentional. Yeah. Did you
really.
learn anything from a technique perspective from Julia?
Yeah, well, Julia, certainly I learned from her. She said, "You're too serious. You know, this is television. You gotta laugh. You gotta be happy." Yeah, she was right. Other professional chefs, So, yeah, I learned from her to be more natural, maybe more simple, and so forth. So that was good, and I think we worked together pretty well, in one way or the other. Whether we agree or not, we drank a lot of wine,
And
and Julia was always so happy to be with PBS as I was. We didn't have the right to endorse any product. We never endorsed any product, and that's what she wanted, never to. And I remember one time we had Jeff Jackson. We had Kendall Jackson was one of our sponsors, and they were very, very generous with us. She told me, you can use French wine, Italian wine, whatever you want. You don't have to use my wine only. So it was very generous, and we did. So we started always the show. I opened a bottle of white wine, we had a glass of wine, and so forth. So they called me from the West Coast. They said, we want to take you out for dinner with Julia. And so they came to Boston, who after me, and they stayed in the hotel there. So they came to look at the show being taped. And of course, the producer told me, Jess Jackson is there. What are you going? I said, don't worry about it. I mean, it's not like we don't drink wine. So anyway, we did whatever we did that day. I forgot some type of dish, and we had some wine during the show. And at the end, that special dish that we did, I told Julia, "Do you want a little Merlot with that, or a Cab Franc, or what?" She said, "I want beer."
I,
You want beer? They were there looking at us. I said, "We don't have beer. We have beer." She had beer underneath. She said, "No,
underneath.
no, no, she put beer." So that's the way she was with the.
Oh, just amazing, amazing. Chef Anthony Bourdain once said, Jacques Pepin is the master,
Yeah,
the undisputed authority on, well, just about everything related to food. If
yeah.
Jacques Pepin tells you this is the way to make an omelet or to roast a chicken, then for me, the matter is settled.
Yeah.
Such a beautiful thing to say.
Anthony was very, very nice with me. I don't know if you saw, I have a show on the American Master
Yeah,
called
yeah.
The Art of Craft, and he's the one who started the show. And
Oh,
you cannot miss the beginning because he started the show. He said, if you happen to have met a new man, if you're a woman or a new, not in those words, but a new woman, and spend the night together, first you have to learn how to make an omelette in the style of Jacques Pépin for the morning. Or something to that effect. He started the show.
priorities, priorities.
Really, really funny. So he was always very nice with me, certainly very generous in his.
What a great memory. What a great story. Chef, when you look back on your career all these years and all these honors, it's a difficult question, but what are you the most proud of?
I was lucky, 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 and lucky. Things happen at the right moment for me. I made a decision. We went there. Hope it worked, whether it was sure, whether. So yes, if you're there at the right moment, too. But you know, to bring people together through food is a great thing. and that I realize even more and more I get older and older, and when I see young people, I go to a restaurant. I was there a few days ago, and there was a young couple, maybe 35 and 40, man and woman, and two kids, and the four of them had their telephone in front of them, and that said the whole evening. They didn't even talk to one another. So, I
Yeah.
mean, you don't learn how to, you have to, yeah, be involved in cooking. I mean, when I was a kid, it was automatic because we work in the kitchen. We did something when we finished school, we get into the kitchen to do our homework. So just the smell of that, the thing, it was a whole life, which I try to duplicate for my daughter when she was small, to be together this way through food. And I think more and more, I think it's important even more than it used to be at the time, because people seem to have all of those way of connecting with one another too, and people apparently teenage are more lonely than they have ever been, So if you take those telephones away and put them into the kitchen, say, okay, there is potato, there is thing there, we're going to do something with it together. That would help you, I
That's
think.
such a great response. I was going to ask you what you believe has changed so much in the culinary world since you started, and I think you answered that. And people are distracted. They're not enjoying the meal. They're on their phone,
Yes,
that sort of thing.
but there is a dichotomy, when I came to America, I live on 50th and First Avenue, between First and Second Avenue on 50th Street, near Sutton Place. Nice area. First time I saw on First Avenue, they opened a little supermarket. First time I went into the supermarket, and I thought it was fantastic. I didn't have to go to the fish guy, the vegetable guy, the meat guy, and like in France. But basically, the whole thing was package. There was one salad. It was iceberg. There was no leek, no shallot, no oriental vegetable, nothing of this. That was 1959, 1960, and all that. So the way the market are exploded now. You go to markets, extraordinary with the food and all that. It's totally different. Do people cook better than at that time? Maybe yes, maybe no, maybe less. There is also more food prepared in supermarket than there have ever been, where people take lunch, dinner with sandwich to all prepared food, which really did not exist before. So there is more of a dichotomy now with people who go. There is some nice farmers market now, where people will go to farmers market and cook and do things together. As you say yourself, the amount of cooking show on television, the amount of cookbook published every year is amazing. So there are people interested in that cooking. But on the other hand, there is many other people, young people, who are never exposed to cooking, never do that. So, as they get to be adults and get married, well, the children don't know it. So it's bad in some ways. It's bad. Yeah.
If you had to give advice today to a young cook who's just beginning their career, what do they need to know?
Well, I have people who tell me I don't cook at all. I say, okay, so she said, I want to learn how to cook. I said, do you have any friend who cook? Yes, I have friends who said, then call the people who invite you for dinner and say, can I come an hour ahead and cook with you? And then you bring a bottle of wine. And then you drink the bottle of wine. And if you forget the chicken in the oven for a while, it doesn't matter.
You've got a bottle of wine.
So, yes, you
Oh,
have to relax and try to, if you have friends, to get involved with them too, to go to the market and so forth. And to give the children a choice, of food you have in the market and have them. Yes, it's not easy. It used to be very natural before because, the food that I had when I was a kid, nothing was prepared ahead, nothing was, and the vegetable and all that were all natural. There was not, you know, food like now, but it is a different world.
it is. It is. Chef, we've come close to the end, but I can't let you go until I ask one very, very important question. The name of our show is The Ultimate Dish. And so you've cooked for years and for so many people. So it's a very hard question. But if I ask you, what is the ultimate dish? What would that be? What would be that one dish that you just remember and love to cook and share?
Well, if I have the greatest baguette in the world and the greatest butter in the world, bread and butter is very hard to beat, you know.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. And some wine?
Oh, of course,
Of course.
yes.
I think after 144 episodes, that's the best answer I've
Oh,
ever had. Good
oh, yeah.
bread,
I
good
don't know.
butter,
Yeah,
and good wine.
it's true. It is true.
I love it. Chef, thank you so much. Honestly, I'm honored. I've been a fan for a very long time. Congratulations on all
Thank you.
the success, the foundation, and happy birthday. And thank you for spending some time with Escoffier.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening to the Ultimate Dish Podcast, brought to you by Auguste Escoffier School of Culinary Arts. Visit escoffier.edu/podcast to find any materials mentioned during the podcast, including notes, links, and other resources. And if you can, please leave us a rating on Apple or Spotify and subscribe to support our show. This helps us reach more aspiring individuals ready to take the next step toward their dream careers. Thanks for listening.